featuring young quarterback Ben DiNucci will be a tougher task. Take a listen.
Is it harder?
Yeah.
I mean, was I not supposed to laugh at that? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell with your mask on, so I didn't know if you were serious. Yeah, it's a bit harder to prepare with a first-year quarterback, than Andy. Yes.
All right, Damian Woody back here with us. Damian, good to see you. Stephen A., I'm going to start with you here. Who do you think's under more pressure in this game? Would you say it's Mike McCarthy or Carson Wentz?
Well, first of all, easily Carson Wentz. Easily.
Okay.
So let me get this straight, y'all. Let me get this straight. So the Dallas Cowboys have the worst defense in football, okay? The worst run defense in football, one of the top five worst defenses in yards allowed, the very worst in points allowed, the very worst in rushing yards allowed. That's on the defensive side of the ball. Can't get to the quarterback, can't sack the quarterback, can't defend anybody in the secondary, et cetera, et cetera. And then we get to the offensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott is gone. Ezekiel Elliott clearly has nosedived, primarily because you got an offensive line that's completely obliterated injury-wise, and as a result, you got some subs that just ain't ready for the challenge, okay? All right? With a new coach that the players ain't feeling to begin with an owner/GM that's cussing out radio hosts, all right? And let me get this straight. Mike McCarthy's the one under pressure? Can you imagine what Max will be here saying about Carson Wentz if Carson Wentz loses to these Cowboys? I mean, who's the quarterback? I have to look it up because I'll be damned if I knew. Who's the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys?
Ben DiNucci?
Ben DiNucci. Could you say that again? DiNucci. First time I heard that name as a quarterback in the National Football League. DiNucci.
I think I used to cop Ben DiNucci's back in elementary school.
DiNucci, right. Yeah, really? I mean,
They were sunglasses,
so
right.
let me get this straight. Carson Wentz can go into a football game against the hated rival division nemesis known as the Dallas Cowboys that's got subs on your offensive line, a dude named DiNucci, not even Andy Dalton, DiNucci
like a nice
playing quarterback, okay? All right, and a defense that's virtually non-existent with a coach that the players ain't feeling, a defensive coordinator that's getting Tabasco sauce caught in his eye during press conference, and an owner/GM that's cussing out radio hosts to show his attitude and more fire than the players showed when Andy Dalton got knocked upside his head and Carson Wentz can afford to lose to that team? Please, he better win this game. If there was ever a game that Carson Wentz had better win, could you imagine?
You're so disrespectful.
Could you
Don't you feel
imagine?
bad for these Cowboys?
Hey, listen. Could you imagine, Max, if Carson Wentz, if you come in here Monday and Carson Wentz lost to Ben DiNucci? Could you imagine that? Please.
As I recall, you used to break up Vasco's back in the day with DiNucci's.
Say what?
You used to break up Vasco's back in the day, little Latigras, some Vasco's and some DiNucci's.
This is hilarious. It's not even close. All the pressure's on Carson Wentz.
Look,
he better not lose this game.
You made a very good case, but you're wrong. You know why? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen already. If Carson Wentz somehow lost this game, all the Carson Wentz apologists would come out of the woodwork. Everyone's hurt.
Not for this one.
Oh, yeah. Every time it's the same thing. Carson Wentz was squeaking by teams just like the Dallas Cowboys last season. Washington, the Giants, squeaking by those teams. And every single quarterback in the division last year, and we're talking about a rookie and Daniel Jones, backups on Washington, all those quarterbacks did better against the teams that Wentz was squeaking by than Wentz did. And yet I used to come on every Monday and y'all were talking about how great Wentz is. He should be in the MVP conversation. I already know what Wentz is going to do against the Cowboys. What he always does. He'll have one amazing Patrick Mahomes level throw. He'll have 3 or 4 good ones, and then the rest will be poor execution and questionable decisions. That should still be enough to beat the Cowboys. But if it's not, Stephen A. Smith, Dan Orlovsky, maybe you, Damian, are going to come out and start defending Carson Wentz. So, in fact, while it should be, listen, is there pressure on McCarthy? Well, you just said it. He's dead last in everything on the defensive end. Doesn't that have something to do with the head coach? Isn't he presiding over this team? And on the offensive side, yep, he lost his quarterback. He lost his backup. He still has Ezekiel Elliott, who somehow forgot how to play football all of a sudden. He still has offensive weapons and receivers. You would think, like, it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose the way McCarthy has been losing. They have to be at least competitive.
Max. Stephen, I don't even know how to respond to this. I think, you know what? I honestly think that this conversation, you have replaced Tom Brady with Carson Wentz because your level of obsession with Carson Wentz now is just through the roof.
Get him, Damien.
I'm answering a question.
How in the hell could you possibly say in this scenario that more pressure is on Mike McCarthy than it is on Carson Wentz? Stephen A. already talked about how everything in Dallas is in disarray. The defense can't stop a nosebleed. They don't have Dak Prescott. The backup quarterback is out. Stephen A., what's this quarterback name again?
Ben DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci. A rookie quarterback, third-string quarterback, is in for the Dallas Cowboys, and you're going to sit here and talk about the pressures on Mike McCarthy? Why do you hate Carson Wentz so much?
I don't actually. I have high hopes for Carson Wentz.
I'm just trying to figure this thing out with you. What is your obsession with Carson Wentz right now?
The only obsession is I see elite top 5 talent and mid-pack results, and I'm being honest about it. I appear to be the only one. Look, if they somehow lose to Dallas, you guys are all going to come out here and start making excuses. But everything you just said about the Cowboys, you know what the worst part about it is? When you see everyone's dead last in defense, and then also they can't do anything offensively, it gives the impression that the team what? Quit, right? This is what we were saying about the Dolphins early last year, and to Flores' credit, Coach got that team by the end of the season to be competitive. But early on, we were all saying, this is an indictment, man. They don't look like they want to play for him. He turned that around. Either McCarthy turns that around. People forgetting, early last season, are the Dolphins the worst NFL team of all time? Then they beat the Patriots last game of the season. They're 3-3 now, right? That's because Brian Flores can coach. He has guys playing. But McCarthy's going to have to do the same thing at some point this season. We're going to have to look at the Cowboys and say, that team didn't quit. They're still playing. And the Eagles are a divisional rival. They can't just get rolled like they're not trying.
Max, I get where you're coming from, man. I understand, man. But here's why your argument makes absolutely no sense. Because you have talked about Carson Wentz more than anybody. You've talked about him, Max, when he got them to the playoffs last year.